Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class is going to be on the second episode of the Wednesday show from Netflix. Hopefully you enjoyed my discussion of the first episode and that you are excited to talk about episode 2 with me. So again, just a reminder for anybody who hasn't seen it, this isn't a spoiler-free discussion. This is full-on discussing what happens, discussing it as if we are truly diving down deep into how this story is going. So there will be spoilers, so if you don't want to know anything about the show before you watch it, go ahead and watch it first, and then you can come back and discuss the episode with us. So, how are you enjoying this series so far? We've only done the first 2 episodes, but still we've had a lot that's happened, so I'd love to know your thoughts on this story so far, if you are liking it, if it's not for you, anything like that. I'd just love to hear your thoughts and your opinions about this show, especially since I know that I enjoy it and that I really like it, so I'd love to hear your thoughts about why you like it or why you think it might be overrated or something else. Either way, let's go ahead and jump into our discussion today. I feel like this episode is a little bit slower than our first episode. Like the first episode, we're like taking everything in, all the characters are being introduced to us, we're getting the world building, we're getting kind of a sense of what is going on, at least for Wednesday, and just everything is just kind of thrown in at us. And then this second episode here, we already are kind of calming down a little bit more, settling in and figuring out where we're going from this first episode that gives us everything bam, 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 bam right away. So let's go ahead and talk about our recap. So we start off right at the end of our last episode where the sheriff is now looking into Rowan's murder. But there is no body, so they're kind of thinking that maybe Wednesday is making this up, and she's trying to convince the sheriff and the headmistress that she is telling the truth and that there was a monster that came and killed Rowan, even if nobody can find him. She's truly trying to convince the sheriff that something is up and this is a cover-up and that he really was murdered. The next day she goes to therapy and ends up running into Tyler and after that appointment, and they kind of have a little bit of an interaction. But then Wednesday's really still trying to figure out what happened to Rowan. So she's on a mission. She is trying to get into figuring things out, but the headmistress is trying to divert her and tells her that she must join an extracurricular club and have some kind of extracurricular activities. So she sends Wednesday on a journey to try the different clubs, meet up with them, and to see if it's one that she would like to pick. She doesn't stay very long at any of them. In fact, Rowan is packing up his belongings and leaving. So when she hears that, she goes immediately to the car trying to talk to him before he leaves, but is unsuccessful. So she has Thing follow the car that he is in, and it drives him to the bus stop where Thing loses him because he comes out of the bathroom. He goes into the bathroom and comes out as a different person, who we later see ends up changing again at another point into the headmistress. So later on, Wednesday convinces Enid to go to the beekeeping club that she is now a part of as a cover-up to allow it to look like she's there while she can go out and explore the woods and look for what might be going on with Rowan. She actually ends up meeting Tyler out there, and they're both looking for information about the monster or Rowan, and they look together, and Wednesday finds Rowan's glasses. When she touches them, she gets a vision. Then, based on this vision, she decides to break into Xavier and Rowan's room, where she ends up hiding under the bed and hearing a conversation between Bianca and Xavier. So when she finally gets through that, is able to sneak back out to her room, Enid is really upset because she has a race and she doesn't have a co-pilot anymore due to what Wednesday thinks is Bianca trying to sabotage them, and Wednesday joins their group. The next day, they do the race, and Wednesday helps lead them to victory. Later, after they've had their victory, Wednesday is trying to hide because she doesn't like all the attention on her, and she notices a symbol for the school's secret society on a statue. She goes back at night to check out the statue and finds a way into the secret society room, where she finds the book that Rowan took the picture from, and is subsequently then grabbed from behind. And that is where we ended. So we do have a little bit of a cliffhanger there at the end of this episode. It might be somebody we know, it might not be somebody we know, but we won't know until the next episode. So we will figure out whether Wednesday is okay or whether she's gotten herself out of the frying pan and into the fire, which is definitely possible when it comes to Wednesday. So again, what do you think of this episode? Please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on what is going on in this particular episode. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is kind of the continuation that we have of the plot lines and the mysteries that we have going. So we can see the development from number 1 and number 2 and how we're kind of building or not building, depending on certain mysteries or certain plot lines that we had going from 1 to 2. So we're kind of giving our story a direction by continuing certain points in the story or certain things. So we're really establishing these plot lines. Pardon me, guys. We're really establishing these plot lines. We are moving a little bit slower, like I mentioned, because we're not like trying to jam everything into this episode like we were with the first one, where we're trying to set everything up, we're trying to get it going, we're trying to make it so you're interested. I mean, the first episode is the same as like the start of a book, where you have to draw the reader in, or draw the viewer in this case, as quickly as possible, so that way you'll want to keep going. So we've got a lot in episode 1, but now number 2, where you're like, okay, the reader or the watcher for this one is already committed to watching more than just the first episode. They are enticed enough to keep moving forward. So with that, we are able to kind of slow down, kind of more develop things, get things a little bit more set for whatever's going to come later. Instead of trying to keep up the hype, we're now going a little bit deeper and trying to round out the stuff that we've already created and the mysteries that we already have. So the first thing is Rowan's picture that Wednesday is in. She is continuing to move forward with this, and the fact that she's really stuck on it. She's stuck on Rowan's murder, which makes complete sense, because how can he be alive when she saw him murdered? And the picture is very, very important to her. She's trying to figure out why she's in this picture, what it means, and we do get a little bit of a movement forward on this mystery or on this plot line when she finds that secret society, and ends up going down and seeing the book that it was torn from. So we get a little bit more movement on that, a little bit more depth to it. We see, oh, okay, so now she's finding out a little bit about where Rowan was getting it from. So we will continue to move forward with that, hopefully, in the future, but right now we've gotten at least a little bit more going. And that was kind of, I feel like, the focus mostly on this particular one was Rowan, his murder, and this picture, which makes sense because that is the most impactful moment for Wednesday at the end of her portion of episode 1. So the murder happens, and now she's like, holy crap, what does this all mean? And so she's trying to figure out the part that she's missing from that interaction, which is the strongest one that she's had so far. Then the second strongest thing is the monster that is killing people, because obviously the monster has killed a couple people in episode 1, including Rowan. Now, we haven't moved too much in this particular episode on this point, but we still have it a little bit going on in the fact that at the beginning the sheriff knows that there's a monster, and the sheriff is conflicted on whether he should believe Wednesday about Rowan considering all the evidence is against her, but he does know a monster is there. And Wednesday has not given up the fact that there's a monster. She just has not yet had time to really formulate more based on the cover-up. So she's trying to figure out how this cover-up's happening with Rowan. But she does find the glasses in the woods, so she is assured that yes, there is a monster and Rowan did get killed. So there's the cover-up happening. Somebody doesn't want there to be a monster that's killing people, especially not, the kids for the school. And it does seem like the headmistress is involved. So Rowan's murder specifically is the one being covered up compared to the other ones. And the headmistress does seem to be involved of some kind. So we do have a little bit of movement there with the sheriff and with the cover-up. And we're going to figure out why this is being covered up and why the headmistress is involved with it. And then 3, we've got the plot line of school life. So this one's not so much a mystery at this point, it's more of just a plot line. But it is essential because it is the backbone of the series. I mean, Wednesday is in a school, and that's where all this is happening, is at her school. So it is important to also then build a school life for her, something outside of all the mysteries that is going on that is important to her and is going to affect her in the future, because obviously these experiences that she has with these other people and these other kids are going to affect possibly her judgment or her choices in the future. So we do have specifically a furthering of Wednesday's and Bianca's clashing, I guess you could say. Their what's the term that I'm looking for? Rivalry. That's what I'm looking for. Their rivalry, where Wednesday and Bianca really don't like each other. It's not like anything specific that happened. They just don't like each other's personality. And Bianca even hear while Wednesday's hiding under the bed, more about her thoughts about Wednesday, how she's mad that Xavier likes her at all because she just hates Wednesday's vibe. And Wednesday very much hates Bianca's vibe because 1, it's against her, and 2, she does seem to be the perfect princess of the high school, and yet she is that upset over Wednesday and what she is doing when she really isn't trying to interact with Bianca at all. So we've got that rivalry, especially with the race, where literally Wednesday wanted to get back at Bianca and murder her team. And then we have also that Wednesday is now kind of coming around to school and the fact that she's participating in a school event. Sure, this is to go against Bianca, and that is more of a personal vendetta type of vibe of reason why she's doing it, but she does participate in the school event with Enid. And I think, though she tries not to express it, it is partly for Enid as well. So you can see that she's developing some relationships there. She's developing a good relationship with Enid, who she cares about. She is willing to take the heat of, everybody looking at her and the attention, though she doesn't like it, based on winning. And she's getting a little bit more involved and invested. It's very small at this point, but she is still working toward it and getting more invested as things go. So we are just building these 3 things in this particular episode. Of course, we have more mysteries that we talked about last time, especially with the mentioning of her dad, who's supposed to be a killer, and things like that. But right now, this episode really clamped in on where they left off at episode 1 and really ran with what happened with Rowan specifically, and developing these relationships and these ties to her school that are going to be important as the story goes forward. So let me know if you think there was anything else that's kind of going on that's important that I didn't mention, if you think that I should have had a fourth line about something else that is going on. What do you see going on in this particular episode? What do you see being furthered and developed that's going to be important later, or something that is, defining particularly? I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on the events and the main focuses of this episode. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the Headmistress. So, we obviously had her as a character last episode, but I didn't really get into too much depth about her. But I feel like we see her even developing even more in this particular episode as well. So I think this is a good time to kind of discuss her and see what you think about her. This is my second time watching this series, so obviously I do know some things about her, but even so, I always feel like it's such a hard time, like throughout the whole series, and especially at this beginning point, it's so hard getting a read on her. She could easily be a good person or a bad person. It's really, really hard to say. She is very mysterious. We don't really understand her motivations at this point. We don't understand why she's doing what she's doing, why she cares so much about Wednesday. We do know that she knew her mom. That's a given. We do know that about her. But she's always very much focused in on Wednesday versus anybody else. So this mysteriousness of like her motivations and what she really wants and what she thinks of Wednesday is really causing it to be hard to tell whether she's a good person, at least in terms of Wednesday and her quests, or if she's kind of a bad person. We've got kind of a moment of where we see that she's covering up Rowan's murder. Obviously, we know that was something she's done so far. That was revealed to us pretty much just a little bit after, Rowan came back. So, does that mean that she's in on whatever this killing business is? Does that mean that she had Rowan killed? Does that mean that she's good, or does it mean that she really has nothing to do with it and she's covering this up for a particular reason? We don't know at this point, and it's very hard to say exactly where things will go from here because of it. We do at least learn now that she can change her appearance. So we knew before that obviously this school is for the outcasts, or for the people who have special abilities or magical creatures, something like that. But we knew that she went to the school as a kid, but we don't know exactly what she was or who she was per se. But now we do know that she is somebody who can shift into looking like other people. The question that goes along also with is she good or is she bad is she also pretending to be anybody else? Is the Headmistress only the Headmistress, or is she another character that we currently know? Because it could very easily be the case at this point that she could be pretending to be anybody. She could potentially be pretending to be somebody closer to Wednesday, and we just don't know. So there's a lot of questions that could come up about the Headmistress at this point. She is very much a constant obstacle in Wednesday's path. She really is always in Wednesday's path. She is everywhere, and she is good at just being like smiling and waving over at her, and it's like, hi, I'm here, don't try anything funny. And it's really annoying. I get why Wednesday's so annoyed about it, but also there might be a reason that she's doing it, and that she's doing this so resolutely. It's not like she just accepted her in and was like, okay, now off to your own devices. She really is trying to be on top of Wednesday and to kind of, I don't know if it's trying to help her at this point, or if it's to, just because she made a promise to her parents to try and set her straight, if it's because she doesn't want her to get into trouble that's going to blow back on the headmistress. So there could be many motivations, but she's really being an obstacle in Wednesday's path, and she is excellent at being mysterious about why she is being so obstinate of being an obstacle in Wednesday's way. I do really like characters like this where it's hard to read them. It's always so interesting to like try and analyze their goals, their motivations, and when it's hard to know what their goals and motivations are, it does make it where there's surprises that can come along later, and I really enjoy that. Another thing about the headmistress is she did seem to really be close to Wednesday's mom, which also might be a motivation in and of itself. She obviously remembers a lot about her mom. She knows a lot about her mom and keeps constantly mentioning things about the relationship that the headmistress herself and Wednesday's mom had. Wednesday hates this because she doesn't want to be related to her mom or to have any connections to her mom at this point. She's pretty much set against her mom and being very rebellious in that way, from what we gathered from the first episode. So she's really upset every time the headmistress is mentioning this connection or this similarity between Wednesday and her mom, Morticia. But maybe that's why she's mentioning it to her, because she knows it's getting under Wednesday's nerve, or maybe she's literally trying to help her foster more of a connection between her mom and Wednesday. Tough to say at this point. Other than everything else added together means something. We'll find out. Right now, I just feel like she's really a wild card. We can't really tell if she's on one side or the other or what her motivations are yet. We just know that a lot of it is mysterious and a lot of it could point in either direction. So let me know what you guys think of the headmistress. Do you like her character? Do you not like her character? Do you have any guesses or reasonings as to why you think one thing or another about her or her motivations? I'd really love to have a conversation with you because this character is super interesting. I think maybe later, after we get through all these episodes, maybe I will do a character analysis on her, because I think that'd be really interesting to really dive into this character and try and pinpoint what it is about her that really helps this story as well as influences the characters around her. Let me know if that would be something that you would like to see as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the relationships that we see building in this episode. I feel like we have 3 different relationships that are really building in this particular episode, and I think it's always important to understand characters' motivations, their changes, and what's important in the story based on different relationships that are built and where they are going well or not going well. That, of course, changes the story a lot, depending on what... And it changes the characters a lot, too, depending on what's going on with the relationships that they are building, or that the story is building for us. Maybe they're already in place, but we're finally getting to know about it. The first one that stood out for me in this whole episode, I think because it was the first one shown, was Tyler and his dad. So Tyler wasn't too big of a part of this particular episode, but we really focused in on like this interaction he had with his dad. And it's not the best relationship. I feel like it is very strained. I wouldn't necessarily say it's fully broken at this point or unrepairable, but it's very, very rough and strained right now. His dad is pretty rude toward his son, not being nice really at all. I felt like he was very much, not quite emotionally abusive, but maybe almost there, where he was just not interested in his son at all and not treating his son like a real person, but more like a perp in many ways, especially since he is a sheriff. So very, very rude interaction. it's very clear that his dad is not around very much. He was basically leaving, and Tyler was shouting after him like, hey, I thought we were going to do something together and, be a family. So obviously that's something that is normal, is that he's not home and that Tyler is wanting him to be home and to build a better relationship with him. His dad refuses to talk about Tyler's mom. It is assumed possibly that Tyler's mom died. It could have been a divorce, but the way it was kind of interacting, I assume that that his mom died. You can correct me or let me know if I'm wrong on that, but that's what I've always assumed based on the now second time that I've watched it. But I could be wrong about that. But that's, again, my assumption. And then Tyler does seem to truly want to have a relationship with his dad, as any kid usually does with their parents and their family. So it kind of can see how Tyler might be moving forward based on this interaction with his dad. He is not having a great relationship with his dad, and that might then later affect how he does things based on what his dad tells him to do. So I hope that made sense. I mean, like, if his dad tells him to do something, like he kind of did in the first episode, he was like, you shouldn't be interacting, like, he was very suspicious about his interaction with Wednesday, and kind of is trying to push him away from Wednesday. But is Tyler really going to follow through on his dad saying that if his dad isn't being really great to him? I don't really see him caring much about what his dad thinks or says. So in that way, it might, in the future, change how Tyler does certain things or not based on this relationship with his dad. And it also shows not a great side of Tyler's dad to us, especially as a sheriff. He's not very kind to anybody, including his own son, which I don't think makes a very good sign of being a good sheriff, or being able to be a good sheriff. If you can't have empathy or caring towards your own family, how can you share that with others? So we'll see how that goes. I mean, obviously his dad does care enough about the murders that is happening that he is very focused on that, but he is sacrificing, or has been sacrificing, his relationship with his son. The second relationship that I feel like we're really diving into here is a new one, Bianca and Xavier. So of course we knew a little bit that they were seeing each other. I'm pretty sure Enid, if I remember correctly, Enid mentioned that in episode 1, that they kind of were together and then broken up. So we're seeing that kind of coming a little bit more to the forefront here, especially in front of Wednesday. We know that they have this history of being in a relationship previously and it not working out. Bianca really wants to still get back together and is still interested in Xavier and wants to try and fix it and try and do it again. Xavier is totally like, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I am done. I am finished. He seems very, very betrayed by Bianca, and based on the read between the lines of what they were saying, it does seem like she might have used her powers on him, and that broke all trust between the two. That her siren powers made him do something, or made him feel something, and now he's questioning all the feelings he's ever had, and that's a barrier that Bianca cannot break through. And even though she's trying really hard and recognizes the mistake that she made, she can't seem to push enough through to have that be wiped away, which is understandable. I mean, I completely understand that Xavier doesn't want to be manipulated, and he shouldn't be manipulated to be in a relationship with someone and to have somebody like them. So, totally understand where Xavier's coming from, but I do also understand that Bianca is a siren, and that's kind of her nature. So it's a hard balance to find, and I don't know if there is something that can change things for Bianca or not. I do know that Bianca is very jealous of Wednesday because Xavier gives her positive attention, and Bianca is not getting that positive attention from Xavier, so she's not really very happy, especially since Wednesday already rubs her the wrong way. So it just kind of compounds, and that then is a tension that she takes out on Xavier in the conversation. There is a huge amount of tension between these two, not in a good way, but in a bad way. So we're going to see how that relationship affects things in the future, or whether that will change how some of these characters interact or change based on these relationships here. Last but not least is Wednesday and Enid's relationship. So, of course, this is going to be a little bit more important relationship in the fact that it is with Wednesday, who is our main character, but also it's the character that's closest to Wednesday, her roommate, Enid. So, we saw a bit of their kind of dynamic in the first one, and it didn't seem like Enid totally cared whether Wednesday was there or not, but now we see in this second episode, Enid mentions that she is happy to still have her roommate and that she is enjoying being Wednesday's roommate, even though they kind of had their tiffs in that first episode. Enid is really warming to Wednesday and to Thing. Apparently they gave each other, did an hour of mani-pedis for each other. So, Wednesday and Enid are becoming closer, especially on Enid's side. She's really warming up to Wednesday, really enjoying Wednesday as a person, even though Wednesday is a different person and the complete opposite of Enid. So I really appreciate that Enid is so open and warm towards Wednesday, even though Wednesday is very cold and not always the nicest person. But she does stand up for herself, which is excellent. Wednesday, on the other hand, is begrudgingly becoming closer to Enid. She cares, though she doesn't want to care. At least that's my opinion, is like the whole getting on the boat for the tournament. Though a big contributor was the fact that Bianca would be crushed and miserable if they won. But I do think a big portion of it also is that Wednesday wanted to help out Enid, even if she doesn't want to admit that she cares about Enid at least a little bit at this point. So she's begrudgingly becoming a bit closer to her and enjoying her company on occasion. She didn't even ask her for a favor, so that's something. They have really learned, I feel like, in the second episode, how to interact with each other, how they both what their expectation is of how the other person will react, and how to kind of dance around that. So I do feel like they do have this understanding of each other coming about. Maybe not perfect at this point, but they definitely understand each other better than in the first one, and they're not quite butting heads so much as becoming at least tolerable roommates. I would say maybe a little bit more closer to becoming buddies, or a friendship developing, but it's tough to say quite at this stage exactly how close they're going to become or how much this relationship will move forward. Wednesday's really, pushing everybody back, and Enid is the kind of person that's like, I don't care if you're pushing me back, I'm going to step forward. And I think Enid pushing and stepping forward is really what is making the relationship move forward, because Wednesday obviously is not putting in any effort specifically towards Enid and becoming her friend. So I do think, though, that it is nice to see that Wednesday is influencing Enid as well. So it's not just this relationship. We already are seeing the results of the relationship by Enid during the battle or during the competition goes and scratches holes in the boat of the Jokers or whatever. And she says, she just asked herself WWWD, which is what would Wednesday do? So she's already having an influence from Wednesday about who she wants to be and how she wants to interact based on how Wednesday acts and comports herself. So I really appreciate that this relationship already is kind of showing the fruits of what the relationship is doing to the characters. Enid is already affected by Wednesday and her very different, distinct personality, and branching out into deciding what she would like to be like as well. All right, that is all I had for this episode. Again, it was a little bit of a calmer episode, really more rooting us into this story and into what's going on. So nothing crazy or overly exciting to talk about, but I do think everything we discussed was really important to the story and to understand as we're moving forward. So hopefully you enjoyed what I discussed and you are enjoying the series. And I can't wait to talk to you guys about number 3. Before we go ahead and wrap up, let's just go over the trivia question. Did go ahead and transition our trivia question today. The trivia question was, what color is the dragon sky from Dragonlance? And I actually had quite a few people who got the correct answer this time, quite a few participants, so thank you so much to everybody who actually participated. The answer is blue. It is a blue dragon. And congratulations to Jason, Brendan, Dan, Crypt, or it's KR1PT, Chris A, Michael Daniel 69, Dave, and Paul. All of you did get it correct, so thank you so much for checking out the trivia and playing with me. And thank you so much for everybody else who participated, even if you didn't get it correct. I appreciate playing with you, and I like seeing all your guys' answers. A new question is up on the website at this time if you guys are interested in checking out the next question. For those of you who have never tried the trivia question before and you're interested in checking it out, go over to the blog, fantasyfictionfanatics.net. It'll be on any page on the right-hand side for desktop. You'll just have to scroll down a little bit and it'll be there. If you're on mobile, you'll have to scroll almost all the way to the bottom, but it will be down there for you to answer as well. While you're over on the blog, it would be great if you checked out my extra content and blog posts over there. I've got a lot of different things, fantasy terminology, I've got book reviews, book recommendations, different thoughts about me for either reading or fantasy things, stuff on writing if you're interested in writing. So any of that kind of content is over there, and hopefully you will check it out. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on what I have on the blog as well. All right, I guess we're wrapping up. If you would like to discuss something with me or get a hold of me, you are more than welcome to do so. You're welcome to comment down below with anything you'd like, or if you are hoping for more of a direct message or somewhere else that's more convenient for you, I've got 3 different social medias. The first one is Facebook, which is /fantasyfiction1. You can direct message me there as well as get updates from me on what's going on with the channel, the blog, and other things as well. You can also check out Twitter, which is @fantasyfiction1. The same deal goes for there. Direct message me or get any updates. And you can also follow me on Instagram. It is also @fantasyfiction1. It is the one that I am still getting used to and learning how to post on there better, but I am slowly but surely getting more content to post on there as well, so hopefully you will follow me and check it out. I would love to be able to share even more content with you there. Last but not least, I definitely think you should check out of everywhere, the Discord. The Discord is a place for you to talk to me through a direct message or with me and fellow fantasy fanatics who are already over there chatting and having a good time about fantasy, about books, about basically anything under the sun. We do talk about a lot of different things, whether it's fantasy or not. And we would love to have you and chat with you and to have a place to share our hobbies and other things that we enjoy. So please go over there if that seems interesting. It is going to be a link down below for you to join, and we'd love to have you. Whew. All right, I guess that is it for me today in this class. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.